Hey guys, welcome back to Sophisticakes by Mary. I am so excited to show you this cake. To me, this is the ideal wedding cake. For this one, this was for an actual wedding. This is a draped linen fondant cake with some dried floral accents. I think she's gorgeous and I hope you do too, and stick around, we'll get right to it. But first, we need to go ahead and frost our cakes. Now, I am starting with the filled and crumb-coated cakes. I do have the footage for the leveling and filling, damming and filling, and crumb coating of all of these cakes. There are some really unique flavors and combinations in this cake, but that would make for a very, very, very long video. So I didn't think you'd want to see that, but let me know in the comments if you would like to see how I did that part as well. I think that's kind of a specific niche. Not everybody's going to want to see all that, but some people might. So anyway, back to this cake. So I'm using my American Crusting Buttercream on this. And these cakes had been in the freezer before I put them in the freezer quite often. And that's just so that the buttercream firms up and is a little easier to work with. So these are chilled cakes, and that makes it that much easier, so much easier to do your buttercream, your final coat of buttercream. And here's the thing with fondant, some people think that it doesn't matter how clean you do your buttercream underneath the fondant, but I tell you what, if you do not take the time to do your buttercream just as if it were to be just a buttercream covered cake, you're going to struggle with it because the fondant actually emphasizes any lumps or bumps or inconsistencies. So what I'm going to do is slow down a little bit on the first stages, since this is a 4-tiered cake, and speed up with the following tiers. Because I know there's a lot of people out there who like to see the whole process, but you don't need to see everything in real time, because I promise this footage, there was almost 6 hours of footage that I edited to get this down to 12 minutes. So let's speed it up a little bit. And what I'm doing there is making sure that the tops are as level as I can get them without using the plexiglass discs that I used to use all the time. But out of necessity, once I stopped working for myself and started working for a bakery, not this one, the one before this, I didn't have the time or the freezer space to use those discs because you have to chill them for a while. So I just adapted to doing it without the discs. But you can use those too. They're great for sharp corners when you haven't got the fine art just down just right for how to get your sharp sides and top and corner. But what I'm doing is just going ahead and putting on a decent thickness coat and then smoothing it down with my scraper and bringing that top lip into the center. Now those cakes are just hanging out in the freezer waiting for the fondant. I know not everybody's a fondant lover, but I tell you what, this, especially for this kind of a cake, I definitely recommend a marshmallow fondant. The marshmallow fondant recipe that I have a tutorial on that, and I will link it, is perfect for this because what it does is it gives you plenty of time to play. Otherwise, with just store-bought fondant, you're going to have so many cracks and pulling because of the weight of the fondant. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle with this kind of a design, is they're using the wrong fondant. Use the marshmallow fondant. Please use it, because this technique is very easy to do. I know it looks intimidating, but it's so easy to do. I would rather do this than just regular clean coating your cake in fondant, because all you do is you roll out your fondant a pretty big piece, because you're going to pull that towards the front. You drape it over the top, make sure that you have enough extra, fabric, fondant to wrap around. You make sure that you get it attached to the back first, and then you pull it all towards the front. You just saw me doing that, but I'm just going to describe what I was doing there. So you pull it all to the front, and it's going to kind of gather and pleat itself. Just use your fingers to guide it. Then gather it together there. And I had cut off that excess, gather it together, and just cut off that front part, because you're going to cover that up with the draping, with some more draping. So don't worry about that. You just want to make sure that your cake is not, with that extra bit of fondant in the front, that it doesn't stick out so far that when you stack your tiers, that the cake on top is going to stick out further in front than the one below it. So here you can see where I'm doing that. I am just draping it and then angling it all towards, bringing it all towards the front. Just tuck it in nice in the back and bring it all towards the front. Make sure you get in that top edge though too, because you don't want it to, it's not going to tear so much as it's just going to get that kind of drag down look to it. And do the same thing, just smooth it around the bottom, remove those air bubbles, and just chop off that front piece. This is definitely one of those don't think about it too hard moments. Just be brave and just do it. That's one of my mottos. Just be brave, jump in, and do it. Don't overthink it. And now it's time to stack our tiers. And in short, what I do is use a star cutter. And I'm just pressing into the fondant to mark 5 points where I'm going to place my larger dowels. Now you can do that with buttercream also. And I cut those all down to the same size. And then I'm sticking some of the bubble tea straws, those milkshake straws, in the center, especially since this is a 4-tier cake. These are for reinforcement, and they also help me to stack my next layer, or next tier on top of this one. You'll see what I mean by that in a second here. Put a little buttercream, and then since the cake had been chilling, I can touch it. That buttercream is firm under there, and you kind of let the weight of the cake push down those middle straws. I did have to push them a little bit, but that's okay. And it's okay to have a little gap there because we're going to fill that in with some buttercream. Now we do the same on the next tier because especially with that fondant, these tiers were not light. Now in between the last two, I just used the bubble tea straws, 5 of those instead of the thicker dowels. Now this is how I secure it. I use a wooden dowel, I would say at least 1/4 inch thick wooden dowel. And then I sharpen it like a pencil, make sure that tip is nice and clean, get all of the wood off of there. And then you can use a mallet. I'm just using, what do you call that? A meat tenderizer, I think is what that is. And you just hammer it down there. You can see I'm kind of angling them. I did 2 because this is a big cake. I did 1 in the front and 1 in the back. And I'm counteracting any bit of a lean there might have been by angling it when I'm pounding that in. And then I'm just rolling up a little bit of fondant and I am filling in those holes because you cut your dowel shorter than your actual cake. So there's going to be a little gap there. And you just fill it in. And here I'm just using buttercream that is colored the same color as the fondant. What I did to color the fondant is I used ivory with just a touch of black. And that kind of mutes out any of the warmth from the ivory that it tends to get sometimes, and it gives it more of that linen color. And I just am using a wet down brush. I'm just dipping it in water to smooth that buttercream. And now we're going to make the drapes for the front. It's a very simple technique. You just need to make sure that your piece is not too long or not too short. Just kind of measure the height of where it needs to go, cut it down to size, and just use your fingers to loosely drape it. Now you can use dowels underneath your fondant to drape it that way. I don't know if you've ever seen that technique, and I have done it before on some of my bow tutorials, but I wanted this more natural, more flowy. So I'm just kind of softening the edges of the outside pieces of the fondant and just pulling it together and scrunching it together. And I'm telling you guys, that marshmallow fondant, it's a lifesaver. It is so much more of a foolproof fondant. Trust me, use it. And then just using a little water on the fondant and to get it to stick to the fondant that's already draped on there. And just kind of manipulate it where you want it. I tucked the top in and I tucked the bottom in. And then, yes, it is a little way down right now, but I go in and I kind of lift it and place it. And kind of get a random flow of the fabric, the quote-unquote fabric. Now I did a piece straight down the middle of all of them, not even straight, just kind of draped down the middle of all of them to kind of tie them together. I don't know, it's just those little final touches that I think make things look more realistic. Now I'm just using buttercream to attach the dried floral. Now there's always debate. Always debate. I get comments. It doesn't matter how you do this, somebody's going to say you're doing it wrong. So to each their own, really. Seriously, let's not pick each other apart. These are dried florals. So I put some buttercream and I'm sticking the dried flowers into the buttercream, because when they cut it, that glob of buttercream is gonna get taken off and pushed to the side when they're cutting it. So any traces of any floral are going to be gone. You can tell I get irritated by this, can you not? Anyway, those comments just get deleted. So we just randomly place these, and I wanted it to be kind of clustered, smaller pieces in the middle, and the longer pieces at an angle from the right down to the left. You could do it from the left down to the bottom or to the right. You can go side to side however you want, but I kind of liked that angle. And some of these are actual silk flowers. Those white leaves, that is silk flowers or artificial flowers. And now we're just gonna finish it up with our last pieces of our dried flowers. So here is the picture that my boss took at the venue. She delivered it because, I don't know if you saw my video before, I can't lift anything too heavy right now. So she lifted this entire cake and delivered it. Bravo. Kudos to her. So I hope you liked it, guys. And again, let me know if you would like to see the rest of the footage. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.